one small mistake. That's all it took to change her life forever. Maria had been working at Le Petit Bistro, a well-known fine dining restaurant in downtown Los Angeles, for 2 years. She was an experienced waitress, always punctual, always smiling, and always ready to go above and beyond for the guests. But on one fateful evening, the pressure of a busy night got to her. She had just delivered an appetizer to a table, but as she was turning to leave, she realized she had made a simple mistake. She brought the wrong dish. The guests were kind about it, joking that it wasn't a big deal. But Maria knew that even the smallest mistake could be magnified in a place like Le Petit Bistro, where perfection was expected. As the night continued, Maria focused even harder, determined not to make another mistake. She worked faster, more carefully, trying to shake off the unease that had settled in her stomach. But by the time her shift ended, she could feel something was wrong. The next day, Maria was called into the manager's office. The same manager who had praised her work, the same one who had told her just the week before that she was one of the best in the team. "Maria, I'm afraid we have to let you go," the manager said without any hint of emotion. "You've made too many mistakes recently, and we can't have that here." Maria's heart sank. She tried to protest, to explain that it was just a minor error, but the words caught in her throat. The decision had already been made. One small mistake. And just like that, Maria was out of a job. But this wasn't the end of her story. No, this was just the beginning of something far greater than she ever imagined. Before we dive into how Maria turned this setback into her greatest triumph, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories. Your help and support encourages us to post more inspiring stories. You won't want to miss what happens next in this incredible journey. The days after Maria's firing were a blur of disappointment and uncertainty. For the first time in a long while, she didn't know what to do. All the hustle, the early mornings, the late nights, and the weekends spent catering to demanding customers. It all seemed like it had meant nothing. She spent the next few days applying to every restaurant in town, hoping for an interview, hoping someone would see her potential. But the rejection emails piled up faster than she could read them. Some didn't even bother to explain why they were passing on her. Others told her they were looking for someone with more experience or a better fit. Each email felt like another blow to her confidence, until it became too hard to ignore the nagging voice in her head that kept saying, "Maybe I'm just not cut out for this anymore." Maria's savings were dwindling. Bills were piling up. Every day she told herself to keep going, to keep pushing. But it was hard to keep up the optimism when it felt like the universe was conspiring against her. The restaurant industry, especially in a competitive city like LA, was unforgiving. She was sitting at a small cafe one afternoon, scrolling through job listings, when her phone buzzed. It was a message from a former colleague, Olivia, who had worked at Le Petit Bistro before moving on to another job. Maria had always respected Olivia's work ethic, and the two had been friendly, though they hadn't spoken in a while. "Hey Maria, I hope you're doing okay. I saw a post about an opening at a new place nearby. I heard they're looking for experienced servers. I know things didn't go well at Le Petit Bistro, but I just wanted to say, I believe in you. Don't give up. You've got this." Olivia's words brought a tear to Maria's eye. It wasn't just the job lead, it was the validation. Someone still believed in her, despite the mistakes and the setbacks. Maria quickly clicked on the link Olivia had sent. It was for a trendy, up-and-coming restaurant in a neighboring district, Café Amore. The description was different than what she was used to. Instead of elite service and flawless execution, it spoke of a welcoming atmosphere and a team-oriented environment. The listing also emphasized a passion for service rather than perfection. Maybe this could be the fresh start she needed. Maria immediately applied. She wasn't sure what the outcome would be, but she knew one thing. She couldn't give up. Maria didn't expect to hear back right away, but 2 days later, as she was finishing a cup of coffee at home, her phone buzzed. The message read, "Hi, Maria. This is Jessica from Cafe Amore. I'd love to talk to you about the position we have available. Can you come in for an interview tomorrow?" Maria's heart leapt into her throat. This could be it. This was the opportunity she had been waiting for. She quickly replied with an enthusiastic "yes" and began preparing for the interview. The next day, she walked into Cafe Amore, a quaint, cozy spot located on the quieter side of town. It had an earthy charm, with wooden tables, soft lighting, and the warm scent of freshly brewed coffee wafting through the air. It was the kind of place that felt like home, not the stuffy, high-end environment she was used to at Le Petit Bistrot. Jessica, the owner, was warm and approachable, and as soon as they started talking, Maria felt a sense of relief. It wasn't about her past mistakes, her firing, or her experience. It was about what she could bring to the team. "I really appreciate you coming in, Maria," Jessica said, her eyes scanning her resume before looking up with a smile. "We value passion over perfection here. I can see you've got experience, but what I'm looking for is someone who genuinely enjoys making people feel at home." Maria felt a weight lift off her shoulders. For the first time in a while, she felt like she didn't have to prove she was perfect. She just had to be herself. As they continued the interview, Maria shared her story, being honest about her previous experience and the circumstances that led to her firing. Jessica listened attentively, nodding thoughtfully as Maria spoke. "Maria, I can tell you're a great fit for this place," Jessica said after a long pause. "We've had some growing pains, but we're a team here, and we support each other. We'd love for you to join us." Maria's breath caught in her chest. She couldn't believe it. She was being offered a chance to start over, to prove herself in a completely different environment. This was her fresh start. She accepted on the spot, feeling a sense of gratitude she hadn't felt in weeks. It wasn't just a job. It was a chance to rebuild, to show that she was more than her mistakes. Maria's first shift at Cafe Amore was everything she hoped for, and more. The restaurant had a completely different vibe from what she was used to. It was smaller, more intimate, and the pace was slower, but the warmth and connection between the staff and the customers were palpable. From the moment she stepped behind the counter, she felt like she was part of something special. Jessica, the owner, was just as supportive as she had been during the interview. On her first day, she showed Maria the ropes, introducing her to the team and explaining the cafe's values. It wasn't about being perfect. It was about creating an atmosphere where people felt comfortable and appreciated. Maria liked that. It reminded her of why she'd gotten into the restaurant industry in the first place: the human connection. Maria spent the next few days learning the menu and familiarizing herself with the cafe's regular customers. The pace was different, less frantic, less stressful, but that didn't mean the work was any less important. She quickly learned how to juggle multiple tables, recommend the right coffee blends, and engage with customers on a personal level. The owners, the baristas, and even the dishwashers all worked together seamlessly, and Maria quickly realized that it wasn't just about the food. It was about the experience. She felt a sense of belonging that she hadn't felt at Le Petit Bistrot. The small interactions with customers were more meaningful. Maria remembered the names of the regulars and their favorite orders. There was a sense of camaraderie among the team that felt like family. Each day, she grew more confident in her role, and with every compliment from customers, her self-esteem began to heal. One afternoon, as Maria was wiping down a table, a familiar face walked into the cafe. Her heart skipped a beat. It was Claire, the manager from Le Petit Bistrot. Maria felt a wave of anxiety rush over her, but she steadied herself. She had moved on, right? She was in a better place now. Still, the thought of seeing someone from her past after everything that had happened made her uneasy. Claire approached the counter, scanning the room, until her eyes landed on Maria. Maria smiled politely, trying to suppress the fluttering in her stomach. Claire seemed to pause for a second, as if processing the fact that Maria was working here now. Her gaze softened, but there was still a hint of discomfort. "Maria?" Claire said, a bit awkwardly. "I didn't expect to see you here." Maria, determined to keep things light, smiled and responded, "Well, here I am. Cafe Amore is a great place, actually. Really happy to be here." Claire nodded, though her expression seemed conflicted. "I'm glad to hear that. I didn't know things would turn out the way they did." Maria's smile faltered for a second, but she quickly composed herself. "You know, Claire, things happen. I've learned a lot since then." Claire looked at her, clearly uncomfortable. She shifted on her feet, then cleared her throat. "I didn't mean for it to go down like that. You were one of our best waitresses, Maria. You didn't deserve what happened." Maria could feel the old wound starting to open, but she took a deep breath and let it go. The past was the past. She had learned to focus on the future, and the future looked bright. She nodded calmly. "Thanks, Claire. I appreciate that, but I'm doing great now. It's honestly a better fit for me here." Claire hesitated before she spoke again. "I heard that Cafe Amore has been getting a lot of buzz lately. You've been with them for a few weeks now, right?" Maria's smile widened. "Yeah, it's been an amazing few weeks. The people here are great. The customers really appreciate the atmosphere." As Claire looked around the cafe, her eyes lingered on the warm, inviting environment. Her expression seemed to soften, and for a brief moment, Maria saw a flicker of respect in her former manager's eyes. "You've really found your place here," Claire said quietly, as though coming to a realization. "I'm happy for you, Maria. You deserve it." Maria smiled, her heart swelling with pride. It wasn't about getting validation from Claire, but hearing her acknowledge Maria's success felt good. It felt like a silent victory. Later that night, Maria stood by the kitchen, taking a breath before her shift ended. She looked around Cafe Amore at the team working together, the customers chatting and laughing over coffee, and the hum of the place's warm energy. She'd found a new home, a place where she didn't have to be perfect, a place where her mistakes didn't define her, and where her passion for service was enough. Maria's journey wasn't over. She was still climbing, still learning, and still healing. But as she wiped down the last table of the night, she knew one thing for certain. She had come so far, and she was only getting started. As the weeks passed, Maria settled more and more into her new role at Cafe Amore. She had become a favorite among regulars, and her rapport with the staff had only strengthened. It wasn't just about the food or the coffee. It was the way Maria made people feel. She had a gift for connecting with others, remembering their names, their stories, and their preferences. The customers loved it, and Jessica, the owner, was constantly singing her praises. But despite all the positive feedback, Maria couldn't shake the lingering self-doubt. She had come so far, but she still sometimes wondered if she was really good enough. It wasn't that she doubted her skills. She had worked in this industry for years. She knew how to manage a busy shift and deal with difficult customers. What she doubted was whether she could truly let go of the shadow of her past, of the mistake that had cost her everything. One evening, as Maria was clearing a table, Jessica pulled her aside. "Maria, can I talk to you for a second?" Maria's stomach tightened. She wondered if this was going to be one of those moments when she would hear something she didn't want to hear. But Jessica's smile put her at ease. "I've been thinking about the future of Cafe Amore," Jessica began. "You've been doing such an amazing job here, and I've been so impressed with your work ethic and how you've connected with our customers. I think you're ready for something more." Maria's mind raced. Was she getting promoted? Was there a new opportunity? She had worked hard to prove herself, but the idea of moving up, of taking on more responsibility, made her nervous. "I'm offering you a managerial position," Jessica continued. "You'd be responsible for handling shifts, overseeing training, and managing the day-to-day operations when I'm not around." Maria's heart skipped a beat. This was the opportunity she had always dreamed of, a chance to show her true potential. But at the same time, a wave of anxiety hit her. Could I really do this? Could I lead a team? She had never been in a managerial role before. She had always been a part of the team, but this was a big step. Maria took a deep breath. "I don't know, Jessica. I've never really thought about being a manager before. What if I fail?" Jessica looked at her with kind eyes. "Maria, you've already proven yourself. You've handled everything thrown your way with grace and determination. I know you can do this. You have the passion, the work ethic, and most importantly, the ability to lead with kindness. And that's what we need here, a leader who cares." Maria hesitated for a moment, thinking of all the times she had doubted herself in the past. But she knew this was her chance. She had been given a fresh start at Cafe Amore, and now it was time to rise above the doubts that had held her back for so long. "I'll do it," Maria said, her voice steady and confident. "I'm ready for this." Maria stepped into her new role with a mix of excitement and nervous energy. The first few days were overwhelming, to say the least. She had to quickly get the hang of managing the schedule, overseeing the team's performance, and ensuring everything ran smoothly, all while maintaining the same level of service she had always been known for. But the hardest part was managing the expectations she had set for herself. The cafe was busy, especially during the weekend brunch rush. Every morning, Maria would review the schedule, assign tasks, and check in with each team member. It wasn't just about telling people what to do, it was about leading by example and making sure everyone felt supported. Maria knew that more than ever she had to show up for her team, especially now that they were looking to her for direction. One afternoon, during a particularly chaotic shift, Maria encountered her first real test. A large party of customers had arrived unannounced, overwhelming the small cafe. The kitchen was backed up, and the barista was running low on supplies. One of the waitstaff, Ben, was getting visibly frustrated, his face flushed with stress. He had worked at Cafe Amore for almost a year, but he had never faced a situation quite like this one. Maria could see the tension in the air. The customers were starting to get impatient, and the kitchen was struggling to keep up with orders. Ben had already made a few mistakes, misdelivering drinks, forgetting to offer the specials, but it was clear that the pressure was starting to affect him. Maria knew she had to act fast before things got out of hand. She took a deep breath, walked over to Ben, and placed a hand on his shoulder. "Hey, it's okay. We've got this," she said calmly, her voice steady and reassuring. "I'll help you with the orders. Just focus on keeping the guests happy, and we'll make it work." Ben looked at her, his shoulders slumping with relief. "I'm sorry, Maria, I don't know what to do." Maria smiled gently. "You're doing great. We're all in this together. Let's tackle it one step at a time." Maria then directed the rest of the team, coordinating the orders and making sure everyone knew exactly what needed to be done. She didn't have all the answers, but she had the determination to push through. Slowly but surely, the cafe started to regain its rhythm. Ben delivered the drinks he had mixed up, and the kitchen staff managed to catch up on the orders. The customers, though a little impatient at first, were eventually satisfied, and the tension in the cafe started to ease. By the end of the shift, the cafe had survived one of its busiest days yet. But more importantly, Maria had learned something invaluable. As a leader, she didn't need to have all the answers or be perfect. What mattered most was staying calm under pressure, supporting her team, and showing them that they could succeed together. Jessica came over to Maria at the end of the shift. "You handled that really well," she said, giving Maria an approving nod. "I could see the way you took charge and kept the team calm. You've got the right instincts." Maria smiled, though she felt exhausted. "Thanks, Jessica. It wasn't easy, but I think we did okay." "You did more than okay," Jessica said. "You've got what it takes to be a great manager. Keep it up, Maria." As Maria cleaned up the last table, she felt a sense of pride. She wasn't perfect, and there were still many challenges ahead, but for the first time since her firing at Le Petit Bistro, Maria felt like she had finally found her place. She was more than just a waitress now. She was a leader. Weeks passed, and Maria continued to prove herself as the manager of Cafe Amore. Every shift was a challenge, and every challenge was an opportunity to grow. But just when things seemed to be settling into a comfortable rhythm, Maria faced a test that would push her skills and her resilience further than she ever imagined. It started on a typical Tuesday morning, one of the quieter days at the cafe. The team was working well together, and the atmosphere was relaxed. Maria was reviewing inventory and working with the barista on new drink specials when her phone rang. It was an unknown number. "Hello?" Maria answered, holding the phone to her ear as she kept her eyes on the team. "Hi, is this Maria?" The voice on the other end sounded professional but rushed. "This is Patricia from Le Petit Bistro. We need your help." Maria's stomach dropped. It had been months since she left Le Petit Bistro, and she hadn't heard from anyone there in a long time. Her first instinct was to hang up, to keep her distance from the past. But something in Patricia's voice made her pause. "We're in a bit of a bind," Patricia continued. "Our head waitress has called out sick for the week, and we're short-staffed. We know you've moved on, but we really need someone who knows the ropes. Could you come back to help us out? Just temporarily, until we find a replacement." Maria felt the weight of the decision pressing on her. She didn't want to go back to the place that had let her go over a small mistake. She had moved on, built something new, and found a place where she felt appreciated. But the temptation to prove herself, again, to show that she was more than the mistake that had cost her everything, was hard to resist. "I don't know, Patricia." Maria hesitated. "I'm managing now. I've got responsibilities here." "I understand, Maria. I really do," Patricia replied, her voice softening. "But you were one of our best. We just need someone to fill in. I promise, this won't be permanent. Think of it as just helping us out of a tough spot." Maria thought about it for a moment, then made her decision. "Okay, I'll come in for the week, but only as a temp." Maria walked back into Le Petit Bistro the next morning, a feeling of unease creeping up her spine. The restaurant was exactly as she remembered. Busy, fast-paced, and filled with high expectations. But this time, it felt different. She was no longer a part of the system that demanded perfection at every turn. Now, she was an outsider, coming back to help them in their moment of need. As she donned her old uniform and slipped behind the counter, a flood of memories hit her. The late nights, the demanding customers, the mistakes, the stress. But this time, she wasn't the same person who had been let go. She was confident, experienced, and ready to prove that she had grown. She quickly fell into the rhythm of the restaurant, delivering orders with precision and managing the flow of the dining room. But as the day wore on, Maria began to notice something. The same people who had been dismissive of her when she worked here before were now treating her differently. Claire, the manager who had fired her, seemed unusually cordial. She even complimented Maria on her efficiency. Maria felt a twinge of bitterness, but she pushed it aside. She wasn't here to prove them wrong. She was here to help, to show that she was more than capable. But as the hours passed, a gnawing feeling started to bubble up inside her. Could she truly go back to this environment? Could she work in a place that didn't value her or recognize her worth? By the end of the week, Maria had made her decision. The job was challenging, and she was still good at it, but the emotional toll was too much. She had spent years chasing approval from an employer who hadn't truly supported her, and she wasn't willing to do it again. On her last day at Le Petit Bistro, Maria sat down with Patricia to discuss her time there. "I'm glad I could help out," Maria said, her voice steady. "But I won't be coming back permanently. I've found my place now, and I'm really happy where I am." Patricia looked at her with understanding, though a hint of regret flashed in her eyes. "I get it, Maria. I can see it now. This place was never a good fit for you. You're meant for something bigger." Maria smiled, feeling a sense of closure. The old doubts and frustrations from her time at Le Petit Bistro had faded, replaced by a quiet confidence. She had proven to herself that she could succeed on her own terms. She didn't need the approval of anyone from her past. Maria's decision to walk away from her old job and embrace the new life she had built was the final piece of her journey. If you've been following Maria's story, you know that true success isn't about being perfect. It's about staying true to who you are, learning from your mistakes, and finding the right place where you're valued. If you've enjoyed Maria's transformation from uncertainty to confidence, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your help and support encourages us to post more inspiring stories.